Welcome to episode 6 of West Meets East. There are a couple of gay slang terms that some of you may have heard, but I'm sure many have. And one of them is potato queen and the other one is rice queen. Um, in some ways they're a little cute endearments, but as is the case with most slang words, they can be somewhat derogatory as well. But it's not too tough to figure out. If you are a rice queen, you're a Caucasian man that likes Asian guys. And if you're a potato queen, you're an Asian guy that likes Caucasian men, rice, potatoes. Um, and sometimes you can be sort of put into that category when you are beginning to date somebody who is Asian. As if there's another expression, once you go Asian, you don't go Caucasian. And honestly, there's a little bit of truth to that statement. When I first moved to Seoul, I had several white friends, gay and straight, who were all single. And by the time we left our time at the international school, we were all dating Asian people. And all of us are still together and married at this point. But it does pigeonhole people a little bit. When I did start to date Asian guys, I didn't date gays exclusively who are Asian. I actually prefer people of all colors. But everyone has preferences. And if you're curious about why I prefer Asian men, you can send me a private email. I'll get into that. But Asian guys, unfortunately, haven't had it easy in the years, especially in the gay years. As I mentioned once in another episode, it used to say no fats, no femmes, no Asians. And I frequently feel bad for Asian boys and men. Because unlike Asian women, who tend to be very popular among straight guys, mostly because of the stereotypical geisha-like aspect to an Asian woman serving her man, or the fetishization of them, all of which is equally offensive as what happens to gay men, which is basically gay Asian men, I should say, which is basically emasculation or the feminization of gay men who are Asian. And this is even true in the straight world. Asian men have always sort of been looked down upon as being effeminate. And even worse than that, just simply being ignored. And there's a reason for that. And Hollywood is particularly bad to, in that aspect. And there's an easy way to prove that. Right now, take a little quiz. I want you guys out there to name one Asian actor who's a leading actor, not a supporting actor, who has starred in a romantic comedy. I'll wait. The only one I can think of off the top of my head, and that's because I've been thinking about this topic, is Henry Golden, who starred in Crazy Rich Asians. But of course, that was an Asian produced, Asian directed, Asian written, Asian starring film. So even that audience was, somewhat limited. I mean, even just try to think of an Asian leading man right now, other than somebody who is a martial artist, like Jackie Chan, who, of course, is not as popular as he used to be. Simu Liu is beginning to make a name for himself. Daniel Day Kim has been trying hard to get into that leading role status, but, it's just not something that Hollywood has embraced so far. And, that contributes to this erasure of gay men as being gay Asian men, or Asian actors, or just Asian in general as being visible. So a lot of work has to be done in that area, let me tell you. And but recently I've seen some changes, and I have K-pop to thank for that. BTS and even animated films like K-pop Demon Hunters has suddenly made it cool to be an Asian man, particularly a Korean Asian man. They are seeing a surge in popularity. Um, but that's not it's not a really authentic surge in popularity, and it's mostly among women who are obsessed with Korean men. But Korean men strive towards this perfect skin, the very similar look that is desired and catered to in Korea. I mean, I enjoy the music of BTS, but could I tell one BTS singer from the next? No, to me they all look alike. So it's been a challenge and for Asian guys to really make a name for themselves. But because of the popularity of BTS and because of Instagram and TikTok, Asian men are beginning to come out of the so-called closet, I guess, which is nice. Because there's just so many stereotypes about them that have existed for years. That they're not masculine, or that they are lacking in a certain appendage, or that they're just not sexy or desirable. But if anybody went into my, followers list, that would be quite the opposite. Do I have a preference of Asian men? Of course, I prefer people from Southeast Asia just because I like darker skin with Asian guys. I never quite understood the obsession with being pale in Korea and Japan. And a lot of the guys strive for that, as is evident by the huge male makeup businesses that are in Korea. So I'm happy to see that this is finally beginning to happen, because it's not easy living, in invisibility and with stereotypes. I'm sure black men suffer from the same problem. Everybody thinks of them as being very well endowed. Can you imagine being a black man who's not well endowed? I mean, the pressure that would happen and the surprise that would result on a grinder date. So these stereotypes among men, in particular gay men, don't help anyone. And I was sort of a victim of that myself before I started dating Asian guys. I came out in the 80s. And right in the middle of AIDS. And at the time that I came out, I was 6 foot and 140 pounds. I was skinny as hell. And consequently, because of the time of age, I looked sick. And yet the kind of guys I was attracted to were the uber masculine, uber macho guys you would see at the Spike or the Eagle. And I might as well have been part of the Wall. And so that sort of desirability followed me all the way up through my first husband until I went to Asia. I had never considered looking at Asian men. It wasn't until I was surrounded by Asian men that I was able to differentiate between the different looks and experience what it's like, to date an Asian man. And I use dating sort of euphemistically. And that's just because of the exposure of it. And that was back to my earlier point. If you're not exposed to it, it's something that's unfamiliar and unknown. But when you live in Asia, that's all you're exposed to. So, you have like no choice. And eventually it becomes your choice. And then it's hard to unchoose. Hence the potato and rice queen slang terms. So I'm happy for Asian men are finally getting the attention they deserve. And I hope it continues to grow. But Hollywood, you still need a long way to go. Even though it's easier maybe for Asian women, name an Asian female actress other than Michelle Yeoh. So there's still a long ways to go. But This is a topic that has always fascinated me. I would be happy to engage with anybody online. So please share, like, subscribe, DM me. I would be happy to talk to you about it. Have a great weekend, everybody, and wait until the next topic.